Hey everybody, welcome back to Survivorisms episode 4. Today I'm joined by another American castaway from one of my favorite seasons, Survivor Samoa. She came into the game a 22-year-old, and 15 years later she is here today to talk about her experience on the show. So everybody, please welcome Ashley to the podcast.
Thank
All right.
you.
I see that you've got your torch in the background.
Sure do. There she is.
Was
Pretty
that torch
cool.
given to you after the season wrapped, or did you have to go find that on eBay?
I had to go find it.
Mhm.
My torch has a very interesting story, actually, if you want to hear the story behind my torch. It's kind of
Yeah, sure.
crazy. So I obviously, as you said, I was 22. I finished the season, and at that time they were auctioning them off. And I didn't want to buy my torch. I was like, no, I'm not going to spend the money. I was like a broke college kid, had no, literally had like no money, all the things. And so many years later, I had met up with Holly Hoffman, and she had her torch, and I was like, I need to find my torch. And so there's a few super fans that I have become really good friends with, and they helped me find the person that had bought my torch originally.
Oh, wow.
And I reached out to them and I had to prove it was me. I had to send a picture, all the things. And thankful for John, one of the super fans. He actually kind of like helped initiate a trade actually for my torch. So I got my torch, I don't even know how many years ago, but it holds a very special place in my heart because I searched for that torch and I finally got it.
That's
So there
awesome.
it is. Yes.
Lovely. Well, I guess we'll start off with did you apply for Survivor? Were you recruited? Tell us about your casting story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I actually applied to be on Amazing Race with one of my friends.
Mhm.
And I was a huge Survivor fan, watched every single season. And they reached out to me and said, like, hey, would you be interested in applying? And so, of course, I was interested in applying. And so I applied, went through the entire casting process. And shockingly enough, I was casted. And I was actually casted as an alternate. So there's some people that know that and some people that don't know that. But
Right.
myself and Eric were alternates going into the season.
How much notice did you have when when they said, "Oh, actually, you're on the show"?
Yep, I had 1 week notice. It was very, very, very fast. And I did learn kind of while we were out there, people were like talking about their when they got contacted and all the stuff that they had to do. And mine was like so, so, so fast. I had to send them all these things of like I had to send them outfits and all like I mean it was crazy, but
Yeah.
it was a whirlwind and I was down for it and I did it.
And of course, you were in probably one of the most beautiful locations that I think Survivor's been in Samoa. I think even that
Yes.
intro shot of you guys all rowing into the beach to meet Jeff, that was just like breathtaking, that location.
It was
I
beautiful.
know obviously it
Yes.
was very wet. It was I think by the time that you got eliminated, you said it had been raining for like 4 or 5 days at that point. But yeah,
Yes.
how beautiful was that
Yes.
location?
It was so beautiful. I mean, just the beaches and the sand. The beaches were so unique. They were like a bunch of little shells. So like you couldn't just like walk the beach barefoot like you can on other islands.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful. I mean, I'd love to go back someday and see it from a like travel perspective versus like immersing in Survivor and not eating, not drinking, all the things. I'd love to
Yeah.
see it.
Well, actually, Australian Survivor at the moment, that's kind of like their new location. So I know the US do have
Really?
Fiji, and yeah, apparently Australian Survivor is staying in Samoa, which I think I prefer Samoa. But
Yes. Oh,
it
that's
was
amazing.
beautiful.
I had no idea. That's awesome.
So, well, you obviously the game starts. You're on the Foa Foa tribe. Um, Obviously, the first kind of time that we see you in the episode is when you're with Russell, and he makes you a part of his dumbass girl alliance in
That's right.
quotations. Um,
So my strategy is to be able to have a secret alliance with each one of these dumb girls. So we can be strong for the beginning. We can look back at this moment right now and say we did it from the beginning, from
Right.
day one. It is day one now. I got alliance with the dumb short-haired blonde.
This is what I wanted. I wanted
Pinky
someone
swear.
to approach me.
How was that? like it was seen on the show? Was it very much like Russell and you walked off and he, came forth with this alliance?
I mean, it was exactly what you saw. I mean, and he started playing like right away. And I was in there and I've seen the show and I was curious, like, are people going to be playing right away? And I mentally, I mean, you're there for about a week beforehand before you start the show, and I'm watching people and I'm taking notes in my journal. And to be really honest, I saw him and I was like, I do not want to be aligned with him. And just the way he was behaving at
Yeah.
Ponderosa. Same with Ben. The way Ben was behaving, I was like, oh, I do not want to be aligned with either of you. But then he approached me, and as he started to talk to me and started talking about, the girls, I had seen Natalie and we're very similar. And I was like, I want to align with her. So, but when I was watching at home, what I will say is he said a lot of stuff that definitely was not seen and said to my face. So
Right.
when I was watching at home, I was very surprised by some of the things that he called me,
Yeah.
and just the women in general.
Yeah. That first night when he was explaining his made up Hurricane Katrina story and his dog, was that something that you like genuinely believed at the time?
Yes, absolutely. And I'm such an animal lover. That was so devastating to me, just
Yeah.
listening to that story. Yeah, I believed it, full-heartedly believed it.
I was in my house. I have a German Shepherd. His name was Rocky. And I tried to get out the house, and I realized I wasn't going to make it. By the time I got upstairs, the water was rushing in like,
Oh my God.
I look at Rocky, I couldn't even see him. It was muddy water, and he's gone. I can't even
Oh my God.
find him. Yeah.
Oh.
I never lived in New Orleans, and I'm not a fireman. I even never had a German Shepherd.
I'm such an animal lover. That was so hard for me to hear. And I don't know, it just kind of gets to you.
So as the game progresses, we obviously it becomes the Russell show, as I would say.
Mhm.
Was it kind of frustrating when you got home and you were watching the show that so much of the episodes were kind of focused on Russell and it wasn't really evenly, split out on your tribe in particular?
Yes, I was really frustrated. I actually at the finale when we were sitting there and prepping and whatever, Jeff was like, "Does anyone have any questions?" And I said, "Are you going to ask anyone else a question other than Russell?" Because like he was so front and center the entire
Yeah,
season. I mean, it didn't feel like fair in the moment, and I
right.
still watch it back and I'm like, why did they give this guy so much airtime? Like he did things and said things. I mean, yes, it was the first time ever, but like there's things that you just don't need to say to get far in the game.
Yeah.
Period. That's my personal thought. But that's that Midwestern in me.
I think the total of confessionals that Russell had was over 100 in his season, and just to like, I think Natalie only had like 17, and it's crazy that that's the difference in between of like how much time Russell had. I know everyone in the comments when I go on a Survivor Samoa video, they're like, we need a Russell edit where it's like a little bit less Russell and a little bit more everybody else.
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's wild.
It's crazy.
Oh, and I got a lot of confessionals, even though I got voted off relatively early in the season, which is kind of a bummer because I would have loved to see how my edit was if I would have made it farther.
Yeah, of course. If you made it further, do you see yourself, say in hypothetically, say you were voted out, Natalie was voted out in place of you, and it was
Mhm.
you, Mick, Russell, and Jason. Do you think you would have stayed true to Foa Foa in a merge situation, or do you think you might have seen yourself flipping? Because I know you were close with Shambo when she came over.
Yeah, that is really interesting. I think I've never been asked that question, by the way. So this is a great question. Here's the thing, I would like to say that I would have stayed with Foa Foa.
Mm.
However, knowing the game, knowing how much numbers mean, I
Yeah,
don't know if I think I would have flipped because I did have such a good relationship with Sham. And like, I could see me going and like aligning with her and Brett
yeah,
Klauser. Like, I
yes,
became
yes.
really close with Brett. So I just think my personality in general meshed way more with them. But I would have like Natalie was my person. So if she would have left, I would have kind of been like a free agent in a way.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a great question. Oh
I
my
thought of that one
gosh.
earlier. I was like, oh, I have to ask that later.
Yeah, I like it.
So let's talk about somebody that you didn't mesh too well with, Ben.
Glorious.
Now, I'm sure we only saw each episode's only 40 something minutes. From what we saw from Ben, it was very disgusting. The things that he said to Yasmin, and even in Tribal after she was gone, like talking about her still in that sense. Was Ben as abrasive as he seems on TV?
Yes, I actually unfortunately think it was worse what
Oh,
you
really?
like it was worse than what you saw.
Right.
There was a very large sense of like, and it wasn't just him, but he was like the leader of like, don't touch the flint, like
Mhm.
let the men do it. It was
Mhm.
very much like the women are less than, we're not capable.
Yeah.
I mean, he was just a pain around camp in so many different levels and ways. And
Yeah.
I hope he learned from that experience,
Yeah.
hopefully.
Hopefully. I mean, I was pretty shocked when I did a little bit of research before the interview, and I thought that not that it would have made any difference, but I thought he was a bit younger. When I saw that he was 29, I was like, you're going into your 30s and you're still acting like that. It's crazy.
Yes. Yes. And that's why, like you said it in your clip, I think you just need to grow up.
I just really think you need to grow up. That's all I have to say to you.
Yeah,
That's a fact.
that was always one of my favorite voting confessionals. That was a good one. I'm sure it felt pretty good to outlast Ben in the long run.
Oh, it felt great. It felt great.
Third person voted out of Survivor Samoa. Ben, that's 4. That's enough. You need to bring me your torch.
Yes, but that was my downfall, truly though, when I reflect on the season
Mhm.
and you watch it and you watch the way that Russell looked at the women and looked at people that were like playing the game,
Mhm.
and I was playing the game and he saw that I facilitated Ben being voted out and he did not like that, and that's why then he started targeting me.
Right. Well, I was going to say, you did make it very far, even, it was pre-merge. You made it a long way. And what a lot of people might not know about this season in particular is obviously because you were an alternate, you came in kind of last minute. Do you think that the cast knew that you and Eric were alternates? Because I've seen it in other interviews where some people have come in the game last minute and they've, as a way, been voted out kind of earlier on because they're not like in that core group. Do you think that
Right.
might have possibly had something to do with it, or was it kind of? Do you think it was too vague to know that you guys were alternates at the time?
I think it might have been a little bit vague. I think I did say a few things, but I don't think that anyone knew. I kept it, I did not tell anyone that I was an alternate until
Yeah,
after the fact because I did not want that to hinder
yeah.
how they thought of me.
Mhm.
Yeah, so I don't think so.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good. Then at least they didn't come in with any like preconceived of like him and Eric, like
Right.
her and Eric being like
Yeah.
away. So when you were voted out, I understand that most of the time, I don't think it happens as much anymore, but on the previous seasons, the pre-jurors take a trip to somewhere else.
Mhm.
Where did you guys go on your trip, and what did you guys get up to?
Yeah, we went to Fiji, funny
Oh,
enough.
nice. Yeah,
Yes. So we got to spend a month in Fiji. I was only at Ponderosa for a few days before we
Mhm.
left,
Right.
because Russell got medevaced
Yes. Yeah.
right after, and then Liz got voted out, and like
Mhm.
that was it, and we
Live.
left.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were in Fiji for a month.
I take it you and Ben didn't share any any fond memories of each other on that trip.
No, no. And that's the part that I think that is the worst part is you are stuck traveling with a group of people that
Yeah.
either you don't like or, you voted them off for a reason,
Mhm.
really. Minus like Marisa and Betsy, which I
Yeah.
grew super close with, and Yasmin I grew close with. But I mean, there was not many Galoo on our
Yeah.
trip in Fiji.
Yeah, gosh. When Russell came to the Ponderosa, obviously I know this is quite a few years ago we're talking, did he kind of come around quicker, or was he still like in a bad state medically, would you say?
He was fine when he
Okay.
came to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, we knew something was going on like
Mhm.
at Ponderosa. We had kind of like, knew that there was some type of medical situation
Yeah.
happening. But he came and was fine. I think more than anything for him it was the mental piece of I couldn't do it. Like
Yeah.
my body quit on me and not like a mental piece. And the
Yeah.
mental piece is the worst part, by
Yeah.
far the worst part
Sure.
that eats away at you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Gosh, how was it for you mentally when you came home? Because I know that I if you didn't know, I don't know if I've told you this, but Survivor UK came back last year,
Okay.
and I made it to semi-finals, and I was, getting to the point where I was like, hoping I'd get on the show. But I met a girl at the audition, and she later on got on the show and became runner-up, and she was telling me all these stories about mentally coming back home. It's
Mm.
like it really messes with you. How did you find it?
Yes, it's hard. I mean, so at first initially, like I was so proud of myself, so proud of like how far I had gone considering I was 22.
Yeah,
But then the for me, it was the what ifs that
yeah,
continued to like go in my head of like, well, what if I would have done this? What if I would have done this? And then I felt a bit, and I'm like, I didn't make it far. Like I'm not proud of where I placed in terms of where I made it in the season. Like
okay,
I just like for me, it's still a point of like I feel embarrassed that I didn't make it farther.
okay,
Still to this day,
yeah.
I feel that way. But for years, I mean, I think I felt like I was the what ifs for at
Mhm.
least 3 years after.
Really?
At least.
Wow.
Yes. Yes.
Out of
Crazy.
curiosity, what did you tell your friends and family that weren't like immediate that you had to go, for however long you went for? What did you say you were going to?
Yes. We told all of our family. My parents were the only ones that knew. I did not tell my sister.
Oh, okay.
And everyone that we told, I was in Africa building houses, doing like a mission trip type thing.
Okay.
And that's what I was doing. And it made sense because I came back, I was really tan, I had a bunch of
Mhm.
bug bites. It was like,
Yeah,
yeah, I was in Africa.
that's a good plan. That's a good way to segue it. So when you were back at home, I'm assuming that you guys probably weren't allowed to talk about what happened later in the season. In terms of you catching up with your fellow castmates, when say you first reached out to Natalie, did she allude to anything about how far she got, or was it all pretty hush hush?
I found out some insider information. I'm not going to say my source. It was
Okay.
not Natalie, though. I will say that.
Okay.
But someone that I caught up with, and you have to think about this. When I was on in 2009, like social media was not like a huge thing. Thank
Yeah,
God,
that's true.
because I was sad about what people were saying on like Reddit and different like
Oh my gosh,
blogs.
yeah.
That was hard. I can't imagine being on it now with
Yeah.
Instagram and like all the things and how terrible people are
Mhm.
because the things people said back then were terrible. But
Yeah.
anyways, we didn't have anyone's contact information. Like I only had the pre-jury, right? So I had
Yes.
all of them. And
Uh-huh.
then there was an email sent out. So we all got each other's contact information.
Oh, okay.
So I got Natalie's information, and then I got like a few of the other people, like Shambo's, obviously,
Mhm.
Brett Klauser, a
Yeah.
few others. And so I talked with one of them and got a full download of what happened for the remainder of the season.
Right.
So at that point too, they weren't reading votes there. Like
Yeah.
it wasn't sure who won.
Hmm.
There was a good hunch
Hmm.
based off of who people said they voted for,
Right.
but it was not a guarantee,
Okay.
which was also interesting. Yeah.
So going into the reunion when Natalie was crowned as the winner, I just actually rewatched the finale very recently, and there's a cut to you walking up to Russell and giving him a hug, and there's like a close up of you like smiling, and I think in your eyes you're like, yes, she won. It's like she did it.
100%. Yeah,
Yeah.
unfortunately. I have nothing bad against Russell now,
Mhm.
even like, but Natalie was my girl, and I will stand behind. You do not have to be like, you don't have to talk bad about people
Mhm.
to make it in the game. Like, I know there was a lot of really upset people that Natalie won. They were really upset about it.
Yeah.
But when you think about it from the jury's perspective, and even like for me, I had heard even like a little bit. Ben was like, "Oh, Russell talked so bad about you." And I was like, "Really? I don't believe that." But then he was telling me a little of the things that he would say behind my back. And I'm like, no wonder. Like, I wouldn't have voted for him, even if I
Yeah.
thought he played like this great game. If you're talking bad about a person and who they are, I'm not going to vote for you.
Yeah, definitely. So, when you guys are at the reunion and everything like that, it's obviously, I know that you got your own question, but it was kind of heavily skewed towards Russell. At that point, did you have any idea that he'd already filmed Heroes versus Villains, or was that a shock
Yes.
when, oh, so you know? Yes.
Yeah, I knew he like came home and left like weeks later.
Yeah.
So I had known that he had gone out and taped that. I was like, oh,
Yeah.
that was my response.
I think it makes sense why he looks so defeated at the finale because I think I heard at one point through like research that he had come out of that season thinking he'd won. He'd gone into Heroes versus Villains, obviously kind of knowing he probably wasn't going to win that, but he was kind of holding on to the hunch that he'd won that. And I think it was Shambo like rang him being like, you know, you didn't win, right? And he was like floored. Like he had no clue. He thought for sure he had at least 5 votes. So
Hmm.
yeah, I think it's when people watch that finale back, you can kind of see it in his face that he's like, oh God, it's like not again. Who
Yeah,
knows what's going to
yeah.
follow?
I
So,
mean, yeah.
yeah. Did you get any offers to come back to any future seasons at all?
Yes, I got called in, I think it was 2010, 2011 for the first Hero, oh my gosh, Blood versus Water season.
Oh, nice.
So, they called me and asked if I had a sister, which I do have a sister. We are like night and day, literally.
Yeah,
And she had to apply. So she like sent in a video, did everything. So if she would have got on, I would have got on as well. They did not choose her, obviously, so we did not get on. But that was the only one. That was it.
wow. So, well, we do know that Survivor 50 is coming up. If you got a call tonight, would that be something you would do?
I would. Yeah, I would do it again. I think I would love to go back and like redeem myself, I would
Yeah,
say. I would love
sure.
to do that. It would be hard. I have 2 kids now and it would be really hard to leave them, but my husband's super supportive and he always says if you get the call, like just you got to do it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I
So
don't think I
say
will though.
well, you never know. I mean, there's been some returnees in the past where like I looked and I was like, why the hell are they coming back? But you
Yeah.
never know.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, here's a question. If Survivor reached out for a Survivor Blood versus Water 2 and they were like, we really want you and your husband, would that be something that you could see yourself doing?
Absolutely. Yes. Yes. And he would do it too. He
Oh,
like,
nice.
yeah, he would 100% do it
Mhm.
for sure. Yes.
Lovely. So,
Yes.
just some more questions about Survivor. So, what are your like throwing it back? What are your like favorite seasons or like your first memory of watching the show? How was that?
Oh my goodness. And so my first memory of Survivor in general. So I was in 7th grade. I'm way older now, let's just say that. I was in the 7th grade and I remember my teacher specifically saying like there's this new show on TV and he was talking about it. And I remember watching the first season with my dad specifically. Like
Yeah.
um, I remember, oh my God, Richard Hatch. I'm
Yes.
like blanking on his name. And I remember the Africa season specifically was like, I don't know what it was about that season and watching Ethan.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
love
what
that
it
season.
was,
Yeah.
but that season was so good. And it was so, I mean, like they had real danger, like real danger.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was terrifying because we didn't have any danger, like there was no animals except for centipedes that could really hurt us, but that would be my first like few memories of the show. Yeah, when I think about that. And
Nice.
I loved Survivor China with Todd, so like it was the really early seasons that are
Yeah.
some of my favorites.
Yeah. They hold a special place in my heart too.
Yeah, yeah.
So I've just got a question about Natalie. So she's kind of an anomaly in terms of Survivor winners because I think she's the only one that comes to mind for me who's won and we've never really heard from her ever again. So
Mhm.
when was the last time that you spoke to Natalie? Do you know how she's doing? What's your story there?
Yeah. So we were talking every day, multiple hours a day. And I don't know exactly what happened, but she decided that she needed to just like disconnect from anyone related to Survivor.
Mhm.
And so she just kind of dropped off the map. I have no idea. I heard she got married, but I have no idea anything else. Unfortunately, I've tried to like look her up on LinkedIn, on
Yeah,
Facebook to try to find her, and I have not. Because if she got married, I don't know what her married name is now.
yeah.
So sadly, because I would love to just reconnect with her.
Mhm.
But I have not.
Well, I have a bit of news. I have actually found, well, it wasn't me that found it, but
Oh,
Natalie's Facebook profile has been found.
Oh.
Most, I guess, recent up to date one. It's obviously private. I think from what I saw it on Reddit. I think the minute people found it, they kind of flooded it with the whole Survivor news, and then she kind of like dropped off again. But from what I hear, that is the one that she is on. So when this is over, I'll give you the link for it because I think
Yeah, I would love
she
that.
did get married, from what I know.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
yeah, we'll see.
Okay. Well,
You
good
never
for
know.
her.
She might reach back out.
Maybe.
Yeah. My understanding of the way that Survivor works is in terms of casting, it's all very like anonymous. And when you do the week-long casting in LA, you're under like false names and everything's very, hush hush. What was your experience with the casting in LA? How was that?
It was crazy. So I believe my name was Amanda Thompson,
Okay.
because they use your first initial and your last initial of your name.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was wild because I mean, you're sequestered in your room. You only have certain workout times, certain eating times. And I went into it really observing and really trying to like watch people because I kept telling myself, if I get on, these are the people I'm going to be with.
Yeah.
And I had heard because I mean, now like I could tell you, I do not remember for the life of me who was there, but
Okay.
I'd also heard they did a second casting potentially for Samoa because there were people that I did not see at casting
Mhm.
and other people had seen them at their casting. So there might have been
Right.
two castings for Samoa.
Okay.
But I don't I don't know for sure.
Yeah.
So it was it's wild to be locked in a room. And they like, I mean, I'm a rule follower. And so it's like you don't talk to anyone, don't look at anyone because that'll ruin your chances. So I was like kept to myself. I'm like, don't look at anyone. I don't want to ruin it.
Yeah. I always say people that did the casting in LA had the best preparation for lockdown because it's just like in a room,
Seriously.
nothing, 12 hours, just wait for a call. That's that's
Yes.
what it's,
Yes. 1000%. Wait for
yeah,
your cell or wait for your your hotel phone to ring and tell you to
yeah.
go somewhere. Yes.
Gosh, that's crazy. So, another question I had about is this about Jeff. So, from what we know, Jeff is a very, he's a good host. He's, it's Survivor is his baby. I had a question. I know you weren't here at the time, but there was a couple of people that said that Jeff had a couple of like implosions at Tribal Council that didn't make the edit. There was one time where apparently after Monica had been voted out and it was her birthday, Brett, who was still in the game, mouthed like happy birthday from the thing. And apparently Jeff like had a screaming match at him. And I think it was Dave that revealed this. Was there any like moments where Jeff, kind of lost his cool and it wasn't on camera? Or was he, always quite genuine?
He was, when I was there, he was genuine. I mean, he swore a lot. I will say
Okay.
that. I don't know if you've heard that before. But he's really good at his job. I mean, he pauses for the amount of time that needs to be paused, and then like he will redo whatever, knowing like they just need to edit that out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but he was great. I adore Jeff. Like I thought he was amazing, and
Yeah.
I actually broke his sunglasses when he told me that I got put on the season. Yeah, it was, and I felt terrible because
Was
I
it Jeff
hugged
that
him.
told you in person that you made it?
It was Jeff and Mark because we were
Oh,
in
okay.
Samoa
Yeah.
and I had met with them before and they were like, well, if this season doesn't work out, would you do next season? And I was like, absolutely, of course, kind of told them my story. And I had a hunch something was going on because they were like, I don't know, it was just weird. And we were
Yeah.
doing all this stuff and they brought me in a room and told me, and I screamed and hugged them and broke Jeff's sunglasses because I hugged him so hard.
Oh, that's amazing.
Oopsies. Excitement is what that
Yeah,
was.
definitely. Yeah. God, I was gonna
Yes.
say I can imagine being told, God, the reaction, it must be like everything at once is rushing in.
Yes, because I thought I was gonna go home and I was
Yeah,
ready. Like I had my flight home and
yeah,
I was devastated. Like I was so close. And
mhm.
then I got it, which is
Awesome.
crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'd had a question about tribal council as well. So this is kind of I've never actually like thought about this until today. When Jeff says I'm gonna go tally the votes, does he like actually go off and like get them out, count them and sort them, or is that producers off to the side and then they just give him the thing?
I mean, he's gone. He's
Oh, okay.
gone when it happens. So yeah, and
Yeah.
you have to sit there and patiently wait. And tribal councils are long, which you've probably heard that
Yes.
before too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Several hours I've heard.
Yes, they're very, very long.
Yeah.
Yes. The first vote actually was between me and Marisa.
Oh, of course.
And
Yeah.
yes, and so like I was terrified I was going to be the first one voted out because it was like we had told oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Who oh my God. What why I'm blanking on his name. Why am I blanking
Russell,
on his name? No, on my tribe. The old guy.
Ben, Mike.
Mike,
Oh, yeah.
Mike, Big Mike. So
Yeah.
we had told him like we pulled him in knowing that they were going to vote for me, and that was how we got Marisa out. So
Right.
that tribal council was incredibly stressful when they were reading the votes because, and in my head, I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to get voted out. I'm going to be the first one out. So yeah, that's not pleasant at all.
Do you think if
Mm-mm.
Marisa didn't confront Russell, you might have been the first one gone?
I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't know.
It's hard to think about like the what ifs, isn't it?
Yeah, I don't know because I mean we had all kind of talked like the smartest thing for us would have been to get rid of Mike because
Yeah.
he was the oldest and obviously we didn't make the right choice because we sucked at competitions. We didn't keep our tribe strong. So
Yeah.
like looking back, like that's the thing. You go back, you're like, oh my gosh, we would have voted off Mike first. Maybe we would have won more.
Mhm.
And then, because I made it halfway through my tribe and they only voted off one person.
Mhm.
So it's like all of those what ifs. There's all
Yeah.
of them.
Awesome. So to finish off the podcast, yeah, what have you been up to since the season finished? And yeah, what's your experience with Survivor now? Do you still keep up with the show and how's that?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, I came home, I got a job, and shortly after got married. I now have two kiddos. I kept up with Survivor until most recently. I have not, I've been so busy with kid activities and just life that I've not kept up with the new kind of when they started doing all the new twists and all the new
Yeah.
idols and all the things. I just lost a little bit of interest because it's not the Survivor that I grew up watching.
Hmm.
And I hear this season's super great, and maybe I'll catch up someday. But right now, life is it's just too busy. I do still the only person I stay in touch with from Samoa, which I think is kind of unique from past seasons because there's a lot of seasons that the tribes stay in touch a lot.
Yeah.
The only person I still talk to very regularly is Shambo. It's the
Oh,
only
nice.
one.
Lovely. How's she doing?
Very
She good?
She's great.
Yeah.
She's so great. Yeah, she just had her birthday. She did a Survivor themed birthday party. I got invited,
Awesome.
but I wasn't able to do it or go. But yeah, she's doing really well. So
Good.
I will say after I did a lot of charity stuff because I was like, you know what? I think it's great to be able to give back and did a few charity different things around the US and
Mhm.
it was really awesome. It's a great opportunity.
Awesome. You mentioned your kids. Do they know that you've been on the show? Is it something that you plan on showing them in the future one day?
Yes. So actually last year, so my kids are 9 and 6, and
Okay.
last year we had them watch the first episode.
Hmm.
And I don't know if they still fully grasp that their mom was on a TV show. Like they do and they don't.
Yeah.
So I definitely, when they are ready, I will happily show them me. I did actually watch a few seasons with my kids, which was
Okay.
super fun.
Yeah.
And my son kept saying, Mommy, I want you to go on because it's when they brought back like the full families with
Yes. Yeah. That
was
was
that
awesome.
season what
But
season was that?
winners at war.
40?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yes. And they
Yeah.
brought back the families and my son wanted me to
Oh,
do it
that's
so
so good.
obviously
Yeah.
so he could go visit me somewhere tropical. So maybe someday
Yeah. Yeah.
they'll watch it.
You
Yeah.
never know. Well, after this conversation, I really want you to be on Survivor 50. I think that they could do it. They could just do like, three tribes of 10, get more people on. Why not?
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of people I think that would love to get their second shot. And that's the
Yeah.
thing. I hope that for season 50 it is not the same people we have seen over and over and over and over again. That is my hope.
Ashley, thank you so much for being on the podcast today. It's
Absolutely.
been really good to talk to you. Time has flown by. I can't believe it's already been 40 minutes. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on today. And
Yes.
yeah, I hope you have a good rest of your year, and Christmas is coming up. So yeah,
Thank
hope all goes
you.
well.